As this skydiving was not practical enough, Jason Pack took the plunge from 13,000 feet and then proposed to his girlfriend Katie Lyons here, Cambridgeshire, England. He had Lyons' family hold up letters asking the big question, and she approached the ground from the high note. Fortunately, she did that. Thanks for writing tonight. That is it for the official report. Fair, balanced, and unafraid to store. Right now, I'm not worried about the question.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Mary, we are going to go ahead and start. Thank you, everyone, for joining. We see we have 25 people joining this online public forum and quite a few people at Town Hall. Again, welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for spending this evening with us tonight to look at the draft comprehensive plan for the town of Dyer. I'm Farhad Zareen. I'm the principal of Ginkgo Planning and Design. We are the lead consultant for this project. And with me, I have Perry, who's going to wave right now, who's a senior associate with this project. So tonight, before we get into the kind of the draft plan, we're going to walk you through the agenda and some of the key items. Tonight, we're hoping to wrap up in 2 hours. We're going to spend about 45 minutes with some introductions and just a general overview of the draft plan. And then most importantly, tonight, we want to hear from you. So we have an hour allocated for discussion and feedback, and then we'll wrap up. But for all of you to know tonight, after tonight, we still have time for the plan to be finalized and refined. So we look forward to your continued feedback and comments. Some rules. I know you're all doing online meetings all day. We're all tired of that. But just to make sure you can hear us, everyone can hear us, as we are doing the presentation for the first half hour or so, if you could all keep your microphones muted or your phones muted if you're calling in so that we don't get a loop. When we finish the presentation and go into the discussion mode, please type a question in the chat box. You can see the chat button right there. And we will try and take as many questions as time permits. If we don't get to something, we will for sure try to respond to your question and post it on the plan website. And then finally, again, a reminder, please mute yourself and when you're not speaking and others are speaking. So with that, we'll go through some introductions. As we said, I'm from Ginkgo. We're the lead consultant here. We're leading a large team. We have a market analyst, a civil engineer, as well as transportation analysts as part of our team. And we are very delighted. This plan started last year. We've been working very closely with your town leaders, your staff, and advisory committee. So with that, I'm going to ask Mary Tennis from the Town Council to introduce herself and others who might be in Town Hall. Mary, all yours.
Welcome everyone who's online or happens to be here. We have Town Council members with us this evening. We have Bob Starkey, Steve Kramer, Alan Brooks, and Eric Schultz. We're all here. So thank you very much for attending. We also have Tom Brown, who's the president of the Plan Commission this evening, and our town manager, Tom DiGiulio. So thank you so much for joining. Please send in your questions and your comments. We've heard from a number of you already, and that's so good to hear. As you're driving through town, you want to start thinking about ideas that you might have to add to our plan. So thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Mary. And we can see we've got 37 people on the line. Very exciting. We hope we can get you all excited about the plan. Before we get to the plan, just a reminder about for many of you, if you're joining in for the first time, if you're wondering what exactly is a comprehensive plan, we want to remind you what this plan has been all about. A comprehensive plan is by nature a long-term plan. it really looks at a long-term vision for a community. And we do this for a living. We've done comprehensive plans for many, many communities in Indiana as well as on the Illinois side. And it is your opportunity, really, the big question a comprehensive plan asks is, what can you do right now for your grandchildren? What kind of legacy can you leave for the future generations of Dyer? So while the comprehensive plan does look at current issues, it's really more about a long-term framework for the next 5 years, 10 years, so you can be a wonderful community as you are today in the coming days. So for the comp plan, we've been looking at creating districts, everything from roadways, parks, trails, where new development should go. But again, really an emphasis on a long-term vision for Dyer's future. In terms of the process, again, if you're starting to join us for the first time in this process, just a bit of a reminder, this plan was started in spring of 2019. And again, Ginkgo is the lead consultant here. Many of you joined the first public forum in October 2019. I can't believe it's been a year. And this plan was actually supposed to be completed in spring of this year. We all know the pandemic hit, and the plan went on hold for quite a few months, simply because there was so much uncertainty in terms of how we would be kind of engaging all of you. So we are back on track a bit right now after a few months of hold. We are currently doing this second public forum. As we said, for all of you to remember, we have the entire month of October for all of you to continue to give us ideas, give us comments on the plan, and then we're hoping that the town council can adopt the final plan by end of this year. Now, how will you continue to give us feedback? We're going to walk you through that quickly. There's a website, the plan has a website. Many of you have used it already. If you are having a hard time understanding how to get there, the easiest way is to go to the town's own website. If you go to the Town of Dyer website, it's very easy to find that. There's a comprehensive plan web page link right there. You can just click on it and it'll take you to the actual plan website. The plan website has all the documents. So tonight, while we're going to walk you through the best we can, the highlights of the plan, please take your time to look at all of these chapters. They're all there in greater detail. And you can just click this button and send us feedback. Any questions, any ideas, any concerns, we will constantly be sharing that feedback with the town and hopefully trying to get back to you on a timely manner. There's a link here called Community Feedback on the plan website that you can also see all the feedback we've gotten to date, which has been very robust, and we are very delighted by all the support we've gotten. So again, we hope you will continue to be engaged. And just to remind all of you, last year when we did host the public forum in person before the pandemic, we had such a good participation, such good feedback from everyone. For those of you who came, we showed you models for downtown, Sheffield area, the train station area, a lively, robust discussion. And then we had all of you fill out these questionnaires, and you continue to give us great feedback. So again, we thank you for that. So now we're going to jump into the actual document. Now this is a bit different. We are going to show you the actual draft document. And a lot of this text you're not going to be able to read. We're not expecting you to read everything on screen. What we're trying to do tonight is help you go to the website and actually take time to look at the plan. And we're just going to touch on a lot of the highlights of the plan to help you actually digest kind of a hefty document. So as you can see, one of the kind of taglines for this plan that we kind of developed with our advisory committee was this idea of discover Dyer, your hometown in Lake County. And that's very important as a kind of branding for the plan. And the word hometown was something that so many of you talked about, that you love the fact that Dyer has a scale of being a very family-friendly hometown. And we hope that this comprehensive plan really builds on that and preserves that character. So the book itself, if you can see the contents, just as you're navigating through it, has some very simple and clear chapters. And there's a whole front section about the goals and trends, but then each of the districts that we're going to talk about today is its own chapter. It's a very graphic book, so I hope we hope that you will have a fun time going through it. We wanted to also remind you, we already see 43 people have joined the meeting. Very exciting. There's a whole section, as I said, on community feedback. Please look at that. But here's a quick, fun summary of what we heard. As I said, from everyone, we heard how much they love the fact that Dyer has this wonderful, friendly, hometown, safe, family-oriented neighborhood feel. And we want to make sure you all understand we are trying in this plan to make sure all that gets protected. No one's going to try to change that. And we are trying to make sure that not only is that protected, but there are certain areas where some other, that change might happen. So if I go to my next slide, this is a very important page for all of you to look at and tell us, hopefully, that you agree with these broad goals. So as you can see on the map, this is the town of Dyer that's incorporated today. And in the lighter green, if you can see my cursor, the lighter green are all the areas that this plan absolutely does not change. These are all the neighborhoods or the subdivisions. We are not in this plan recommending any change there. The main focus of this plan is really the darker green areas. These are, from the Sheffield corridor, the downtown core, the Calumet, the Route 30, and the Main Street corridor, where we're mostly focusing on. And as you can see, the plan goals, we start with this idea that we want to make sure that Dyer continues to be strong as a family-friendly hometown, primarily single-family homes, owner-occupied. However, for all these other areas, perhaps there are some other options to consider and make them more pedestrian friendly. So we're going to be walking you guys through all of that. One of the things in the draft plan that we want to make sure is while we're talking about some new ideas, we want to make sure we celebrate Dyer's unique history. So you'll see through the whole document, we highlight, your unique history, how you were created on Route 30 on Lincoln Highway, and the wonderful history of Hard Ditch, your beautiful churches, and what a close-knit community you have. And so we are always going to try and celebrate history and the uniqueness you have. The document, we're just showing you some sample pages. We're not asking any of you to digest all these maps and graphs, but it gives you a snapshot of where is Dyer compared to the rest of the region. So most of this is 2010 census data and 2017 data. Next year, you're going to have new data, but we see 43 people have joined the meeting already. Do take a look at all of this. It'll give you a sense of where Dyer is in terms of demographics, income, median age, household size compared to the county and the region. So out of that, all those charts and numbers, there are two things that are really critical to remember here. Why are we doing this plan? The first one is population growth. So you see on the left, when we look at Dyer and everyone else, in the last 10 years, Munster, Highland, many of the county neighborhoods are actually seeing a decline in population. When we looked at the 2010 up to 2017 numbers, Dyer had a very minor increase. So this is a big question for all of you. For the next 20, 30 years, if you start seeing a continued decline in population, how does that impact Dyer? And we want to make sure this comprehensive plan can secure your future so you're not in a declining mode. The second really important thing is median age. Across the region, in the Chicago region, in the Indiana region, we are seeing the median age rise. So we are seeing more older people already in Dyer. We see the median age is 46 years, and it possibly is going to continue to grow. This has a huge impact on housing choices, where people can live, and how many choices you can give your seniors, your empty nesters in terms of walkable and more vibrant places. So we're going to be talking about that. So in the plan, one of the big areas we focused on is what we're calling the downtown district. This is right at the heart of your Route 30 and Hart Street intersection. You can see the history. This is where Dyer grew, the original Main Street. You've got Town Hall there, the hospital, and the historic Hart Street there. So in our last forums and many of our meetings, we've walked you through all the opportunities here. You can read about all of that, where we see, you see all those numbers, where long-term, the village can continue to help and invest in making this a more vibrant area. So we're going to jump right into the plan. And again, I'll walk you guys through what the plan recommendations are, and then we're going to ask Mary to chime in a bit. A lot is happening already. So I'm going to zoom in a bit and orient everyone and actually draw a bit just so you can follow my thought process here. So here we have Route 30 and Hart Street. And we are thinking this plan, this intersection right here was always the kind of heart of historic Dyer. And this is a very not very friendly intersection, as you know, there's a lot of cars there. So one of the main recommendations we're making in this plan is to do some streetscaping in this area to make it more pedestrian friendly, to add landscaping, nice historic lighting, and really make sure for people walking and crossing that we can establish that pedestrian character. Second big focus of this plan is really looking at Hart Ditch. And as many of you know, the town has already been acquiring properties to get them out of the floodplain. But keeping up with that in momentum, the plan recommends creating a much more active and vibrant public park along the creek that all of you can use and hopefully program for summer markets and events. The third piece is really long-term, looking at potentially moving town hall into maybe a new facility and a civic campus along the creek. There are many other recommendations in this plan, but I'm going to then hand it off to Mary a bit to talk about many of the things that the town is already undertaking in this area. Mary, on to you.
I think the one thing that people really notice right now is because of the traffic pattern, we can only go north on Hart Street. And it's been that way for quite some time. And people just keep looking at it and thinking, well, you know, when is this going to be completed? And we're looking for something before the first of the year. The bridge is beautiful and it looks so nice in that area. And again, you know, we're moving toward maybe removing some of the houses in that area so we can create more of a park-like district from Elmer Miller Park, extending way over to the other side and over to the hospital property. So we're looking forward to that. And I love the idea that you have here, you know, with the park setting and how it can bring everybody from the whole town together one way or the other. I mean, it's very walkable. So I think probably Route 30 is very important because it is important to our economic development because there is a lot of traffic up and down Route 30. And we know that when 8094 is shut down, it's like a log jam. But that's okay. You know, we have a lot of traffic through town here and it's good for our economic development. So is there anything else you want me to touch on?
No, I think that was great. And again, we've kept everyone muted and I'm sure you have questions. Keep those questions ready. We're just trying to get through this and then we'll open it up for a whole hour and we want to hear from you. If you are already in this area and you're wondering, where did my building go? And suddenly, you know, the town is, you know, getting rid of me. Absolutely not. We want to make sure you all understand we do this for a living. What this diagram means is that long term, if someone wants to acquire a couple of properties, you want to acquire the one next to you and do something else, this plan makes it clear this is what you can do. And one thing to remember is we are also going to be working on the zoning code for the town. The whole goal is to make it easier and more flexible for the things that you desire. So if someone wants to open a small business here, build a small new restaurant here, to have shared parking in the back, the whole point of this plan is not to create more hardship, but really make it easier for the desired businesses to keep adding here. And as you can see, existing anchors like the church, the beautiful church you have here, other existing buildings, they're already there, they're staying, but we are primarily looking at how can we do some infill. The one other aspect of this plan, I'm going to zoom out a bit, that's important is to understand the connection with Sheffield. We're going to be talking about Sheffield a bit more tonight because there's quite a lot of opportunities there. But as many of you know, Hart Street and Sheffield don't quite connect directly. There's a weird little jog there. So one of the much, much longer term recommendations of this plan is to try and create a public open space, a public park there as a point where Hart and Sheffield can meet. Now, if you are a property owner there and you're wondering, oh my God, they just took out my property, we've tried our best to do this in a way where existing properties aren't directly impacted and we can weave this in. This has a long way to go, but this is an idea and a concept that we hope you will take a look at and let us know what your thoughts are. So here on the side, you can see our model that shows you kind of the scale of things. No one's talking about making this into some kind of, tall 30-story building. Absolutely not. These are 2 to 3-story buildings, very much in keeping with the small town pedestrian nature of what we hope we can create here. So we are very excited. We think this will be so unique. Dyer, one of the things that we've heard from all of you that Dyer does not have a main street. You don't have a walkable core. So we think these are all the right directions that long-term can make Dyer even more desirable as a place to live. Sheffield Street and Main Street are going to be a big focus for tonight, where there's a lot to do and a lot of opportunities. As many of you know, at the northern part of Sheffield, right here where we say train station, this is in the town of Munster. But as many of you know, there's been a lot of work done in long-term bringing a train station there and creating a wonderful transit opportunity that was completely missing in this area. Just so you all know, we actually did the comprehensive plan for Munster about 10 years ago. So a lot of these things are for the larger Northwest Indiana region, great assets that hopefully will be economical assets for all of you. So as we look at this, we're looking at the entire Sheffield corridor. And again, the big question of how do we connect that to downtown right here? But we're also looking at Main Street because only the southern part of Main Street is in the town of Dyer. As we said, the northern part is in the town of Munster. So we have limited opportunities on what you can do with the new train station coming. So here in the plan, you will see what we call redevelopment opportunities that are shown in red. Again, one thing very clearly to remember, if you are a current business owner there, this plan does not impact your current operations in any way. No one's trying to oust you, nothing changes. All this means is there is a clear idea if you want to sell your property or do something new, your options are very clear. Or if a developer wants to come and do something, what the town wants is a clear starting point. So as you can see here, in red, there are some properties that we've identified as possible redevelopment areas, and then along 213th also. So for Sheffield Street, because it's such a long corridor, we've been looking at it as the start of the transformation potentially can start at 2 points. One is the 213th and Sheffield intersection. There's already a grocery there. There are some properties that maybe in the long term can be redeveloped pretty quickly. So we're looking at if we can transform that intersection into kind of the heart of Sheffield and the northern part also as the train station's coming in, and set a pretty clear idea of how the rest of it, all these red areas can gradually fill in. We hope that long-term Sheffield can truly be transformed into a wonderful pedestrian-oriented, it's never going to be really Main Street, but a 21st century pedestrian-oriented friendly street that allows new shops to come, restaurants to come, outdoor seating, and multifamily housing too. One of the big challenges for Sheffield, if you own property there, is really the properties along the tracks. These are very, very shallow properties. If you own a business there, you probably know it's hard to park. So we're trying to find ways to make your options a bit more, to have more options in transforming this. Out of those sites, we'll walk you through the Main Street sites first. So as you can see, we're looking only at the single family properties that are on the southern side of Main Street. Now, if you own a home there and you're thinking, goodness, we're going to oust you tomorrow, absolutely not. There, nothing changes. You can stay as is, unchanged in perpetuity. All this means is long-term with the train station coming, and we talked about creating more housing choices, we're trying to see within a 5-minute or 10-minute walk of the train station, are there other housing choices across the region in Chicago and in Indiana, near a train station, typically we like to see a bit more of a multi-family product, 2 to 3 story, typically owner occupied. It could be a row house. You can see some pictures here at the bottom. And what is the target market here? We are not trying to say, oh, suddenly a ton of people from outside now need to come to Dyer. On the contrary, if you are a senior citizen, if you are tired of owning your home and you don't have an option of owning something that where you can walk to a train station or you can walk to a restaurant, these are the places where long-term we see there might be some opportunities. So here there's an idea of potentially long-term, there could be some row houses along just the southern part of Main Street, as well as one of the only large remaining vacant sites that you have near the train station is owned by the church. Now, again, these are just concepts. No one's talked to the church. No one's tried to do this. There's no plan in place. This is simply a concept that we are sharing for your feedback with the idea that long-term near the train station, it would be really wonderful to have a different housing product that seniors can come, young families can come, and it's a bit more of a walkable product that has been really successful on both sides of the state line. So do let us know your thoughts on that. And then finally, you see, as we're going down to the 213th intersection, as we said, this is a critical intersection for Sheffield. We've already got vaults there. And right at the intersection, there are properties perhaps in the near term that could be redeveloped. But the simple kind of strategy we're taking here is long-term. If we want to make sure any new building if it's built along the street with outdoor seating or maybe row houses, but it has parking in the back along the track. So very simple formula that is very typical for Main Streets. And you can see here in our next slide, long-term, we hope the town will continue to invest in streetscaping, add landscaping to the street. We're showing a bike trail on one side, potentially landscaped medians in the center, really start to transform Sheffield as a wonderful pedestrian-oriented street for the town of Dyer. So with that, again, I'm going to turn it off to Mary. If Mary, you or anyone from the town council, I know the Sheffield Corridor is a very favorite project for everyone. If anyone wants to jump in, and we look forward to your feedback also.
Okay, I think we're looking forward to what it's going to look like and kind of envisioning what could happen. And again, it's very difficult, when the train station isn't there yet. So sometimes it's tough to imagine what it's going to look like, but it's going to be here before too long. That one pie-shaped section, the houses are already going away. And of course, that's the Kiss and Park area or drop-off area. So make sure that you can identify that. But I think people are looking forward to what's going to happen, especially with the bike trails. So that's going to be another thing that we're very concerned with, is the bike trails through town, not only connecting to Cherville, but also into Illinois. Ellen, do you have anything? No, they don't. So thank you.
And you brought up such a good point. The bike trails we're going to talk about, actually perfect timing. The next big section, we've spent so much time on developing a trail plan for all of you, because that is the one major thing that we hope you will all support the town council. They've worked very hard with us for over a year in identifying a full trail plan, and not only connecting to the train station, but connecting to your parks, to your neighborhoods, to the beautiful park you've done on Calumet Avenue, a critical part. So we're going to then go, I know we are going through a lot of detail in a very fast time, but we want to go through this again. It's a sampling of the plan. We hope you will digest it and keep the conversation going for the next month. But we're going to move on to the bike trail. Now, before we do that, one of the things to note tonight, we're only highlighting very quickly the downtown piece, the Sheffield piece, and the trail framework. in the document itself, there are whole sections on Route 30, on Calumet Avenue. Some of those seemed less controversial and immediate. So these are the three we're focusing on. We haven't forgotten. I just wanted to remind everyone, we haven't forgotten about those other districts. So with that, I'm going to ask Perry to walk you through the very ambitious trail plan that we have for all of you.
Thank you, Zareen. Hello, everybody. I'm delighted to be able to walk you through our trail plan tonight. As Zareen said, it's a very important element of the comprehensive plan, and as the work we've done across the region, trails are a very important element for most communities, both for the residents that live there today and also attracting new young families. It's one of the things that people look for, that kind of element in thinking about where to locate. So as you see right now, the page shows Dyer in the Indiana region, and you see that you're close to many very important regional trails. With that, we had come up with the steering committee, advisory and everything, 6 main goals for the trail framework. And these are to connect to the regional trails of the Pennsy Greenway, to make Calumet Avenue a major north-south trail, to have trails that connect to the new train station, trails that will connect to the downtown area, and trails that connect to the new Central Park and everything going on in there. And also to complete the current trail network through existing parks. And as you can see on the other side there, oh, sorry, we've moved on. Okay, next slide. So here's the actual framework of the trail plan. Another thing that I'd like to point out is that we've designed a complete network. It is to get people of Dyer all around to be able to connect to the destinations within the town, also to connect you to the regional trails and things outside the town, as well as to create loops that you can use both, for recreation and exercise, as well as using it as an alternate method of transportation. So to go through these quickly, do I have drawing tools? Can't find them.
I can go.
Okay, so the first one is the main north-south connector, which is Calumet Avenue. Zareen can highlight that. This is a major trail that is a north-south connector through the town. The other major north-south one is the Hart Sheffield. Thank you. Which goes through the districts that Zareen just highlighted, and new parks, connects to the train station. These are the 2 main north-south elements. East-west, the first one, you can see, as Zareen highlights, follows the line of the CN spur track and then along the main line that can connect ultimately all the way to the Pennsy Greenway. Now we know that part of that connection is outside the town of Dyer, and that would require some coordination with neighboring communities, but it provides a great opportunity to connect people all the way from trails in Illinois, all the way through Dyer and all the way to the Pennsy Greenway. The next major east-west trail is right along Route 30, Lincoln Highway itself. This goes right through the heart of town, would connect to the north-south trail on Calumet, and would also connect to the major east-west trail, as well as bringing people into the commercial area by another alternate method through the trail, bringing people from outside of Dyer to some of Dyer's shops and other things along Lincoln Highway. Another major connector all the way at the north end of town is the Main Street. Again, that could go all the way from the Pennsy Greenway to the new train station, and then connect also to the main north-south trails. The other 2 major trails along 213th and along 77th down at the bottom help kind of complete that network and loop sections. We also have a couple smaller ones that go along the southern portion here, connecting to the existing parks, as well as completing the park trail. Also going along Hart Ditch through the downtown, and then also north all the way up to 213th Street. On the following page here, you can see there's a full list of the trail projects that would include all of the things I just mentioned. It would also include areas that maybe require something like a bridge that goes over Route 30 and things like that. You can see the complete list there. But this is just giving you a highlight. And then if we go to the next page, this is just a sample. Oh, there you go. This shows that we looked at each one of these trail connections in great detail. This is the Calumet Trail. We looked at the existing conditions, what's there today, what the roadway width was, how it would be able to accommodate a trail, on which side of the road would be the best one. In the northern section, it would be on the east side. In the southern section, it would be on the west side. We looked at all this in great detail. What intersections, you can see the dark red circles, what intersections would need to be upgraded, were there bridges we had to think about. And this is just a sampling. We have one of these sections or one of these pages for each of the different trail sections. So you can see it all in greater detail and learn some more of the particulars about how the trail framework was developed.
Thanks, Barry. Wonderful to see 58 people on the line. So we only have a few more minutes. We'll finish the presentation and open it up for discussion and questions. But just to let you know, as we said, there's a lot of detail in the trail plan. We hope you're excited. We've heard so much from the community how they're very, very excited about being able to bike safely within the community, connect to Penzie Greenway. And most importantly, one of the things that is a big focus of this big trail network is connecting to your new Central Park. So that from your home, wherever you live, long-term, you can ride your bike very safely to this. Now, trail frameworks like this, as we said, we do this for a living. It takes a long time. So every year, we hope you are going to support your council members in implementing and investing in putting in one trail section at a time. And hopefully in 10, 15, 20 years, the whole network will be completed. One thing to remember, as Perry mentioned, there are going to be barriers, right? There are going to be intersections that are difficult to cross. We are going to need to think about bridges in some points just to make it safe. So in this comp plan, we're showing some of these suggestions. Each of these projects are real, complicated projects that over the next 10, 15 years, we hope the village will continue to look at. And please do look at all the details for each of these trail recommendations that are in the plan. And then finally, one of the important pieces of this comprehensive plan is what we call design guidelines. One of the things we always will say is you never should have to compromise on quality. We are all looking at economic challenging times, but there's never any reason to take on things that you are not comfortable with. And with some of the new buildings that you've already done on Route 30, they're really lovely. You're starting to see new buildings coming on Calumet Avenue, even on Route 30, where the town has raised the bar. So we hope you continue to do that, but we hope that it becomes a bit easier for the developers to understand what your standards are. So we have a whole section on very simple design guidelines in terms of height and what buildings should look like. And here's just a sample of one page. As we said, we are also going to be working on the zoning code. So a lot of this will become hopefully part of the zoning code also that can help regulate the quality that you all are looking for in your lovely community. So everything from corners and outdoor seating and awnings and all that stuff are things we're looking at. So with that, we hope you're excited. Again, it's impossible to go through a whole year-long effort that you all pitched in a pretty hefty document in such a short time. Again, the whole point of tonight is not to go through page by page on what the plan is, but just to give you a sampling, get you excited about the opportunities. Really thank all of you as well as the council members for all the work they've put in. But more importantly, to understand that you have till the end of October to continue to give us questions and give us your feedback. And we're hoping that the plan can get adopted at the end of this year. So we're going to open up the chat dialogue right now. And please type in your question. And we will call on you. If you're not speaking, please do mute yourself. and we are ready to go. We have 58 people on the call here. Let's start with, if I don't see any questions, I'm going to just put people on the spot randomly. So how about Miss Cindy Malinowski? Any thoughts on the plan? And I can go back to a slide. I know it's a lot to digest. Calling on people randomly. And we're also getting some questions. So one question is the trail along Hard Ditch, which side of the creek? So right now we are showing it along the east side of the creek. Again, very conceptual. As it gets materialized, we'll work with, of course, the town is going to work with you. You're right there near the creek. The actual alignment can be finalized later. I'll go through the questions. The first question is, the Monster website shows that the Seminary Drive would be extended. I thought this would not be happening. So I'm going to go back to, this is a critical question we've heard before. I'm going to make sure we put this to rest once and for all. As you can see, the Seminary Drive does not connect to this. So just to make sure we are looking at this accurately, I'm going to draw on this plan right now. Seminary Drive up to the church ends here. There is no connection to this piece. Next question, does this plan include infrastructure updates? Yes, it does. So after this meeting, we're going to have a whole list of all the projects that are mentioned here. So we will have what we would like to think as a capital improvement project list. So yes, we will have infrastructure update lists. If you have any suggestions that are specific, do let us know. We'll add that. One question, won't multifamily dwellings along Main Street lower the housing values in North Street? In Northgate? I will answer this based on our experience. We honestly would never recommend anything that actually lowers housing values. I will show you the example right here. For example, this is different market. There are lots of studies that have been done to show that multifamily housing near a train station is actually typically a little bit higher priced than single family homes. The example you're seen here, this is in Orland Park. It's actually very close to where I live. These homes are selling for mid 300,000. So this is not cheap multifamily, primarily because multifamily near a train station is typically a bit higher than anything market rate. So not only will it not lower your housing cost or housing price, it probably you will see an appreciation. Thank you. Someone said, I love the trail plans. How realistic are these coming to fruition? As we said, we do this for a living. We did Monsters Plan 10 years ago. They went and implemented so many of the trails within only a few years of plan adoption. So we hope a lot of this will happen. Next question, is a plan for Central Park included in the plan? So Central Park was already kind of planned by the town before we started, and the town has continued to plan that. So for this comprehensive plan, we are not, planning the actual park itself. We're simply incorporating what the town has already done. If you have specific suggestions on how Central Park can continue to be improved, please let us know and we will incorporate that. Let's see. Similar question again, multifamily homes in my experience brings lots of problems. This will lower my property value. Can we consider single family homes? We get this question a lot. And again, you have to trust our judgment here. We are first and foremost not recommending multifamily anywhere other than just a few very limited areas. We're talking about market rate, high quality multifamily. And again, given these certain locations and the current climate, no one is actually going to build below market rate, bad quality housing, multifamily housing. It simply won't sell. So again, we hope this fear that you have, that all of you have, that multifamily is going to depreciate your property value. We will continue to answer this question, but this has not happened in any project that we've worked on, especially near redevelopment areas or train stations. Thank you all. Just to ask from Mr. Luke Lawrence, the Westlake Corridor project has been in the works for years. Is that a project being considered, finalized, and construction appears likely to be starting soon? If you're talking about the train station, it is on track. It is one of the more higher priority projects that has been identified by NICTE. So as far as we know, that is moving forward. I need to actually ask someone from the village, from the town, either Tom or Mary, to talk a little bit more about any updates on the NICTE train station project.
The project has been given all of its go-aheads from the federal government. They've begun property acquisition up and down the line, and they've begun the removal of properties in Dyer that was mentioned earlier. The plan is to have construction completed by about 24 and the train functional shortly thereafter. So it is moving along.
Thank you, Tom. So we'll keep going through the questions. From the Dyer Baptist Church, Plum Creek Christian Academy plans to continue expanding south along Calumet Avenue. Does this plan put any restrictions on that? It does not. We didn't touch on Calumet Avenue, but we, please do look at the plan. Right now along Calumet Avenue, for all that area south of Plum Creek, you will see in our plan, it's shown as literally extending exactly the kind of uses you have. So no, the answer outright is no. So no need to fear. From Ms. Marion Woodlock, I love the idea of upgrading Sheffield. It has been an underutilized area of Dyer, and it could be an amazing walking area. The upscale suburbs in Illinois are building these environments around the metro. Multifamily housing is a big part of that and helps create a vibrant lifestyle in the community. Thank you, Ms. Woodlock. We truly could not agree with you more. Very well put. We really think long-term Sheffield Avenue has incredible potential because there's, it's a narrow street. It has, a train station at the end to anchor it. It has hopefully emerging, vibrant downtown at the end. And you have 213th, which already is an established anchor. So we completely agree with you that even if it takes a long time, Sheffield hopefully can really reposition Dyer as having that pedestrian street that is completely missing right now. So we appreciate your support, and we hope you will continue to keep your support coming. Ms. Sheila Sorrentino asked, will this plan be available on the town website for future reference? It already is. So what we would, again, we'll walk you through it again. So if you go to the town's website, I'm going to go there again just so people can find this easily. But if you go to the town's website, and right there on the website, there's a link that says Comprehensive Plan web page. You just click on that and it will take you to the project website. Every chapter that we are showing you is up here. So for example, you can just click on these. I'm going to click on the Calumet District, which we didn't run through today just because we had a question about the, I forget the name of the church. No, it's a daycare, Plum Creek Church, just to show you to alleviate any concerns. So for example, each of these chapters you can review. Plum Creek, you're here right now. As you can see, all the parcels immediately south of you are shown in the same color, which means it continues to support exactly the kind of land use that you have. So to answer your question, the plan is already available for future reference as a draft. Please keep your questions and comments coming. And I will remind everyone again, the way to send us feedback, there's a link right here, Ginkgo Planning. You just click that and immediately it will send an email to us, and we will constantly log those and share those with the town. Next question from LKR. Since the current pandemic shows that Chicago businesses can function with stay-at-home workers, this would certainly affect the need for transportation. Absolutely, this is the time we are seeing so many people. If you go to a bike shop right now, you cannot buy a bike. This is how people are, more and more biking, walking, working from home. So it's a completely different world. So the old way of thinking that all we need to do is keep solving our roads for traffic problems. As you can note, we didn't talk about traffic at all tonight. The focus really is not to make it easier for cars. We of course are looking at that, but really make sure that we look at all these other modes. Mr. Luke Lawrence said, wonderful, thank you. I work downtown and live in Northgate. I look forward to that future development. Wonderful, thank you so much for your support. Miss Kathy said, I cannot wait for the bike trail. As Mary mentioned, the town is already working on that. We hope immediately in the next few years, you can ride your bike along the creek and many other places to Central Park, hopefully. Ms. Jim Bolva said, what communities in this area have you developed multifamily dwellings near a train station? To answer that question, as we said, we worked in Munster. Munster at that point did not have a train station. We've worked across the region on the Illinois side on this, from Tinley Park, New Lenox, Orland Park, Streamwood, Schaumburg, across the region. And all I can tell you is, in no case has market rate multifamily had any negative impact on existing housing. Ms. Sheila Sorrento again said, nice, thanks, thank you again. Mr. Roger Hamilton, thank you for all your hard work. We really appreciate that. I'm in support of the plan. I'm not a fan of multifamily homes just because in my experience, it brings undesirable people. As long as the cost of homes are marketed for the upper middle class, no lower class, no affordable housing projects. We want to make it very clear. The term multifamily has very negative connotations, but that's just a term that we use. It doesn't really by any means imply affordable housing, nor does it automatically means it's rental. The target product here is really owner-occupied row houses. So everything we're showing you is a row house. It's typically owner-occupied and is typically in the Illinois market in the $300,000 range, and sometimes more expensive than your single-family house. So yes, through the design guidelines, through the zoning code, the town still has full control of what comes. So again, we hope that addresses your concern. Ms. Carol Brockman said, is there a tentative timeline that can be shared from planning to some level of implementation? Absolutely, that's the next step. So we didn't talk about implementation tonight. I'm going to, go back to our screen a bit. But as you can see, we have 7 chapters outlined and already uploaded. We're missing the implementation chapter after tonight, and based on your feedback for the next 1 month, we will be picking an implementation plan with 6 to 10 priority projects that can be implemented in the next 10 years. So do let us know what your favorite projects are in the plan so we can convey that to the town council and they can champion these projects. Dyer Baptist Church, the bike trail, especially on the old CSR line, would be wonderful. We've heard such great support on that from everyone, so we hope we can keep that going. That's the last question we had. If we miss someone, you can unmute yourself right now. We still have about 10 minutes or so, a little bit of time. You are able to, and we really thank all of you to keep you for having kept yourself muted through the whole presentation. But please unmute yourself if you want to ask us a question directly, and we are happy to answer that. So everyone is unmuted, right?
I didn't know that. No, did you know Wisconsin's going? Oh, you know that. It's because all the college stuff. We're on the watch list. This year is
okay. Let's see. Are there any questions right now? Did anyone, and you can, from the town council, Mary, did you have anything else to add?
We have a few people in the audience that have some questions.
Oh, of course. Wonderful.
Is the land north of the seminary, that part, the farmland, is that part of Dyer? North?
Yes.
It's all,
It's the Main Street.
all to Main Street.
Yes.
How about west toward Lansing? Is that farmland also?
On the north side of Main Street. On the north side of Main Street, that property is in Munster. It's north of Main Street, it's Munster. If it's south of Main Street, it's Dyer.
Okay, how about west toward Lansing?
That's all Illinois.
Plum
It's
Road,
all Illinois, because
that's all.
the seminary.
Okay, we have nothing to do with that.
No.
Okay, yeah, next. I got a question. This go on?
It's on, yeah.
One question I got is how does it benefit of residents on around Dyer? I mean, this is like traffic going in and out, the passing Dyer, going through Dyer.
How does what benefit the residents? The
The
plan?
town of Dyer, as far as the residents, or do we get benefit out of this very full meeting? I thought this was gonna be something for the whole town of Dyer.
Well,
I live in Pheasant Hill.
the comprehensive plan is for the whole town. We haven't dealt with the residential areas because there's no plan for that in terms of redevelopment for the residential areas.
Good.
Oh, all right. The idea is that you would benefit individually because the town would be making some planned improvements over time. And it'd be a better quality of life. You specific to your home, probably nothing. Okay, if your street needs to be paved, the plan's got nothing to do with that or anything else. The infrastructure that we're talking about, we've been doing millions of dollars of infrastructure over the last several years. That plan is to continue until we're told otherwise. So I guess I'm not quite sure how to address your question of, other than the idea is to benefit the town as a whole. Right. And that's the best thing I can give you.
So the stop where people, they're like, they'll begin on and off in this area, or it just goes straight through Dyer?
Oh, you mean the train?
Yeah.
Okay, the train, we're at the end. The station that we talk about in Munster
Yeah.
is the end of the line. It's just on the north side of Main Street by several hundred feet. Okay, the train, that's the end of the line. That train will run north through Munster, through Hammond, up to where the South Shore crosses up there, and that'll be the transfer station. You'll be able to transfer to go east or west from there. The plan, as the way I understand the plan, is not to take a Dyer train nonstop into Chicago, but you'll make a transfer in Hammond, and that'll be the benefit that you won't have to travel up to Hammond and do everything else. Okay? Hope that answered.
I have a couple of questions. First of all, will this be available on YouTube?
Yes.
Okay. I did not see, I skimmed it quickly when I was looking for the time of the meeting earlier. I did not see a statement of purpose at the beginning of the document. Don't most comprehensive plans have a statement of purpose? I know she went over a quick statement of purpose or a outline of purpose, I guess.
I'll let the author answer the question. Shereen? Did you hear the
Of course.
question?
So we kind of here just rephrased it as plan goals. A lot of comprehensive plans, the typical comprehensive plans are typically geared towards really planners like us. And we have a term for that. It's typically a lot of planning mumbo jumbo that the normal audience cannot understand. So we try very hard to make our comprehensive plan, the terminology, to be easily accessible. We try to speak a language that the community can understand. So yes, the purpose statement that's typical in a comprehensive plan, that's like a 3-page document that is very difficult to understand. We try to keep it simple. And here you have these 7 goals. So this is the purpose statement. And we tried to, in this case for Dyer, it's a very specific plan. There are what we normally say 2 kinds of comp plans. One comprehensive plan is a big hefty policy document that is very difficult to understand how that translates into anything that is tangible. In this case, we've tried to do a very specific implementable plan with very specific goals. So to answer your question, it's here, but in a very specific goal statement that these are the 7 goals and this is how to do it. So instead of saying, we want to increase the quality of life of Dyer, which is a obvious goal everyone would have, but yeah, how do you translate that? So we are trying to make it very, very specific about these. So it is there as a goal statement.
Ridiculous.
Okay, there are projects that will be selected,
Ridiculous.
and will all those projects be completed, or will they just be put on a wish list?
Any projects put in the wish list, and then you work to try to complete them. Well, I guarantee that they'll all be completed. I know that I certainly will be liable, and I plan on living a long time. But it gives us a roadmap.
I'm moving out of here.
The
Okay,
bike trail, just use bike trails as an example. There's millions of dollars worth of bike trail projects out there. So you take those bike trails and you start building them as they're available to do with funds, land, and everything else, and you slowly start doing it. I have my concept on the bike trails is you can't connect until you can connect north and south over 30. You've got the north bike trails, you got south bike trails, and then you got to get across 30. So the crossings of 30 are a big part of it, but that's going to be the hardest thing to do because it's going to be very expensive. So you build bike trails south, you build bike trails north, and you get people moving around those things. In the meantime, if I'm a serious bike rider, I'm going to cross Route 30. Little kids aren't going to do it, but little kids aren't going to go off on Route 30 by themselves, whether there's an overhead crossing or not. So we'll get the bike trails built over a period of time. It just takes time. It takes time and it takes money, and money follows good projects. Time is a thing that you keep losing and can't replace. So I can tell you that. We've done lots of other improvements. Some of these improvements are very ambitious and they require lots of other things. Look at the S curve, for instance, the T intersection. You buy those buildings out, you build that across, but you gotta have it's gotta go somewhere. So is timing right for it? The town hall complex is one of the things. We've been talking about that for another year. This is a difficult place to get to. The thought is to move it somewhere else. This has ended up being a good commercial building for some other user who doesn't require the public necessarily to come in. So there's lots of different things we're doing, but one of the things with these plans, particularly the way Ginkgo does them, there's low-hanging fruit and you keep going up the ladder and you get projects done. And recognizing you can only budget for what your resources are, but it gives you a goal. If the council wants to be aggressive as could be, we could move forward and do a lot of projects. If the council decides to become a turtle, then nothing will get done. I don't think the latter is what's going to happen. Okay, we're finishing projects that were started years ago, and now you get a second wave of projects that'll move forward.
one more question.
Yeah.
How much citizen input is required to get a project considered? She's suggested that people suggest projects. How much citizen input is required to get a project seriously considered?
Well, other than your traffic light that I think you're interested in, that we've
Any
talked about.
project.
Well, any project, if it goes on or fits in the goals of the plan, it gets put in. But if we're not looking at micro projects, we're looking at projects that benefit the community as a large and make some sense and are doable. So you've had input, you've been in most meetings, if not all of them. You've spoken up. The only thing that I think you've been denied was the traffic signal down on 30, which we told you the state is in control of, and it doesn't meet the warrants then and it doesn't meet them now. But what specific project have you got in mind, or do you think somebody else?
I'm asking the question
Well,
because
is there,
Tom, if I can interrupt a bit here. We're going to back up a bit because there were other questions and people are starting to leave. So I want to make sure we have time to address those. In terms of, what projects, as Tom mentioned, one thing I want to really make sure everyone understands, your council members have worked really hard to get it to this point. So if they didn't want to implement some of these things, they wouldn't have put in all the time and effort. And again, they work together. This has nothing to do with politics or anything. All your council members have the best long-term good, in their hearts. So which projects can they do in the near term? It will be all really up to what grants can you get, how much money you have. There are so many unknowns, and they've done their best to date. We really enjoyed working with them, and we have no reason to think that they will not continue to, put the best possible implementation forward. Now, one of the things to remember is the comp plan is nothing is set in stone. So within 3 months, there might be some new opportunity that just comes up that the plan never even envisioned. And so then you change the plan. So again, this is your plan. It will get adopted, but through the council, it's your plan. You can continue to amend it and continue to look at ideas. So to answer your question of how many people do you need to support, so all we are going to ask is take a look at the plan. And if there are certain projects that you really like and you want to support, let us know, and we'll make sure the council knows that these are the projects that have great support, that hopefully, they want to get reelected, that you will support them if they kind of continue to champion that. So with that, I'm going to take a few other questions. Mr. Jim Balva had a question. This sounds wonderful. However, how much of this will affect our taxes? This is a standard question we get for all our work. Outright, we will say none of this really is a direct tax increase in any way whatsoever. This is now not how projects are done. Most of this will look at capital improvement budget, which is already in place. A lot of this, hopefully, if you have a plan, you can submit for state and federal grants. We've already talked to your RDA. We will hopefully talk to NICD and NERC. So we hope specifically for the trails that you can continue to get outside help. But typically nothing like this directly impacts anyone's individual property taxes. Mr. Roger Hamilton had a question to the town council. Can the Sheffield plan include making a quiet zone for the trains? This is also a question we get a lot. It's actually a state and federal kind of whole process. I don't know, Tom, if you want to handle that. It requires some, we've done that in other places. It is not cheap or easy. But Tom, did you have anything to add on whether you can add a quiet zone on Sheffield?
Well, this has been brought recently, as I think last week. We put the medians in on Sheffield at the CSX. The request was to limit the amount of time that the trains were going through, which isn't really relevant. But the other crossings that this track is on are either they're ungated and they're unprotected. The only place we could put a quiet zone, I believe, is at Sheffield, and we're going to start that process. It's a long process because the state has to go through stuff. The railroad has to approve it. The good news is they have just finished replacing the gates, and we've worked with the state to get a median installed. So at least I'm hoping that intersection I can get approved. The other ones are a little bit more difficult because they are unguarded. So we're working on, I think, what he's talking about.
Wonderful. Yeah, and I think that was his question, quiet zones, as you mentioned. I'm glad you guys have started the process. It does take a long time. So hopefully hang in there and it'll happen sometime. So before we start, we see 48 people are still on the line. Again, you don't have to type in your questions. If you want to unmute yourself, ask a question to us. We will be able to hear you and answer you. But while we are waiting, Mary, did you have anything to add in terms of, we got really good feedback today. I'm very excited with the very positive feedback. Anything else, Mary? Did you want to add something?
I would recommend that folks that joined us online or that are here in person, go out and talk to your neighbors and say, tell them what you saw. It's really important that we get the word out. Even the people that are walking up and down your street to say, did you see this plan? please take some time. That's what the beauty of technology is that you don't have to sit there and watch the whole thing. You can watch it in pieces, but the important thing is we want your feedback. And that is so important to everybody in Dyer, is let us know what you're thinking. Some of you have really great ideas. I've already talked to some. So we really appreciate you watching this evening or being here in person. But thank you very much, Serene, for all your time and effort, and you too, Carrie.
Our pleasure. It's been really, we wish the pandemic hadn't hit right when the plan had great momentum, but it's wonderful to see so many people got online, and we're still getting such great feedback. So in terms of next steps, again, please, if you still have questions, please keep typing or just unmute yourself. Just to remind you again, if you didn't catch it, the easiest way to get feedback to us is, my email, all of this stuff, it'll be online. So one thing that we want to make sure you all know, the entire meeting was recorded. It will be posted on the plan website by tomorrow morning. You can watch it at your own leisure. You can see who joined and all the conversation. Again, to remind everyone, the easiest way to get to the plan website, it is a long title there, is to go to the Town of Dyer website, just click on the comprehensive plan link, and it will take you directly to the plan website. And you can, again, I'll go one more time to the website. It will bring you here. Tomorrow, you'll see the recording of this whole thing. And as we said, you can go through each of these chapters, and any comments you have, just hit this button at ginkgo@ginkgoplanning.com. And we would love to continue to hear from you. In terms of next steps, we are hoping, again, we're giving an entire month to keep soliciting comments, but after that, we will add the implementation section, and we are hoping that this can go to Town Council or Plan Commission, hopefully in November, and hopefully a full adoption by December. As we mentioned before, we are going to be also updating the town zoning code, and hopefully we're looking at next spring to complete that. A couple of new questions came up, so I'll keep answering those. From Mr. Jason Balamut, in terms of construction management and oversight, is there a plan in place to contract this work in order to prevent similar issues that happened on the Hart Street repaving project? So one thing to really make clear, a comprehensive plan does not directly create construction projects. So a comprehensive plan, if you look at the whole document, looks at the entire community, there's like over 100 projects there. So for anything to actually go into a real project and construction, each one of those projects has to be designed by an engineering firm. So there's a whole process. So a simple answer to your question is no. There is no construction management, because each one of these projects will go through its own process. The town council has to approve it. You have to select a consultant, and then it goes into construction management. So with
Hi there.
that, yes, of course.
Sorry, I didn't know when to ever chime in.
Please
I
chime
had
in.
a question. Okay. I wanted to basically stem off of what Mary had said about talking to our neighbors and basically letting people know what we had seen on this forum, because I know a lot of my neighbors are concerned about the train coming in. A lot of people were talking about the multifamily housing and how that might have a negative impact. So I appreciate your candor in answering those questions, because I will definitely be sharing that along the way to my neighbors and fellow Dyer residents. I also did want to say that I am very excited about the 213th and Sheffield transformation. So that's something I will definitely be putting a vote in for. So I really, really appreciate that that's something on the forum that we're going to be able to discuss and hopefully vote for, and maybe have that happen sooner than later, because it is a total eyesore, and that's where I live, in the Meadow subdivision. So I would love to have a facelift over there. So thank you very much. Do we have like a time frame when that could happen if other people vote for that?
Well, let me back up a bit first. Can we catch your name? I think I see your initial when you were talking. Will you introduce yourself, please?
My name is Jen.
Hi, Jen. Thank you so
Hi.
much for joining. So to answer your question, absolutely. Please tell your neighbors, any way they can contact me or the town council members, and we will continue to try and address any concerns about multifamily. I mean, the one big thing we are trying to make sure everyone understands is there's very limited amount of multifamily. Only in select places can these projects happen. And most of the town of Dyer stays owner occupied single family. And I also want to reiterate that the multifamily that we're talking about here is also owner occupied, market rate, and no more than 2 or 3 stories in height. In terms of 213, since we did this plan, as we said, we've been on hold for quite some time. The town is actually moving, entertaining some ideas about this intersection, looking at not only streetscaping and other options that they're already looking at. So we hope you will continue to support them, and it will happen soon because there is momentum there. So I don't know if Mary or Tom, you wanted to add anything for the 213 intersection?
The intersection is on everybody's radar. These things take a long time. You just don't drop medians in the middle of the street or anything else. We've got to figure out a way to get some incentivized development through there. Putting a new street change anything. We've got to get some outlots built, maybe by the bowling alley, for instance, or out the walls to get some of those things. We're looking at some land acquisition for public purposes, but it's on there, but I can't promise you a time.
I think one thing Tom mentioned, which is really critical here, one of the things we are actually trained as architects, really important to know everything we draw here, there is also the power of the plan itself and the goodwill and commitment from your town council members. So why are you doing this plan? If you did nothing, then nothing would happen. Sometimes the plan itself has an impact, and we're going to cite one of our biggest projects that we're working on. If all of you are familiar with the former Motorola site in Schaumburg, 300 acres, and very, very challenging project. And we've been master planning that for 3 years. As Tom mentioned, things take a long time, and we thought it would be 10 years before we saw anything happen as the town desired, the city desired it. Unbelievable in the last 1 year since the plan has been adopted in these difficult times, how much is happening there. So when we say long term, we hope it's actually a lot of this stuff happens in the next 5 years. You've got an amazing town council who's very revved up. They're very committed to making this happen. And with your support, we hope these changes happen pretty soon. So I think with that, I'll check if there are any other new chat questions. One more.
I have a question.
Yes, please go ahead.
You mentioned that the multifamily units you're discussing would be 2 to 3 stories high. My concern is the 3rd story, because I have property on the west side of Sheffield, and that will totally destroy any sense of privacy in my yard or the back half of my house. Why are you going so high up with the multifamilies?
All right, to answer your question, how tall is your home? Is it 2 stories?
It's a ranch. I'm a ranch.
It's a ranch. Okay. So here are things. When we are saying 2 to 3, all these red bars, you're saying that we're saying it means someone can come in and obviously do a single story commercial use. That's the preferred use, right? We would be all very happy if all along Sheffield it was restaurant row. The reality of the economy today is we are seeing retail shrink like nobody's business. We didn't talk about Route 30 too much. Route 30 is a very healthy retail corridor. Everywhere on most commercial corridors, we are seeing retail shrinking so much. So the bigger question is on Sheffield, let's say long term, there are certain areas near 213 and other places where commercial survives. What happens to the rest of the corridor? What are we going to do? As we said, these parcels are so narrow, you can't really do much with them. So there's a reality. There's one worst case scenario is things start get abandoned, strip retail centers start getting emptied out, and you have a commercial corridor that is actually really looking blighted. The other option is it stays as a very healthy commercial corridor. There are restaurants and local businesses that stay. But for properties that are struggling for commercial, now there's an option to do multifamily. Now, in the ideal world, yeah, this would all be single family, but who the heck will build a single family home on Sheffield, right? We have to do something here. So the 2 to 3 stories comes from a market reality. If we say that a multifamily or someone has to come and build a single story residential unit, that product doesn't exist. Yeah, no one's going to build a ranch home on Sheffield facing that way. So the 3-story, how are you not impacted in terms of your privacy? If you look at, I'll go to the next slide, the detail here. This is actually a very important thing to understand. Right now, if there's a commercial building, let's say this is Sheffield, they can put the building closer to the track and put all the parking in front, which means that commercial building is actually closer to your home. What we are actually recommending is they can't do that anymore. Every new building actually has to put the building near the street, away from your home. And then we are showing that they not only have to put the parking in the back, not a building, but also have a landscaped buffer along the track. So we are trying to put all these regulations in place for new buildings that actually will have less of an impact on your home. This is a very specific issue. I'll be happy to talk to you in more detail if you want to call me, but I would just ask you to kind of think about it this way, that we are actually going to be asking the buildings to move further away from you, not closer. I hope that answers that specific question. I'll go back to the chat. New questions that we have from Ms. Karen. Is anything going to be done about the traffic on Route 30? Traffic is insane. So on that note, I think Tom talked about it a little bit. On Route 30, I'll go to our Route 30 plan page, which we didn't walk you through too much today. Here you can see the traffic volumes. Route 30 is a regional connector, right? There's nothing we can do. The town can't quite suddenly say, oh, we don't want traffic to go through our town. One thing to really, really understand is while we all complain about traffic, that traffic is so important for your commercial corridors. So you can't have it both ways. All the businesses there, your restaurants, all the things that are thriving on that, we want traffic, but we want traffic to be managed better. So for Route 30, one of the things we're looking at, I'm going to go to the slide. Now, one thing to remember is Route 30 is a state route. You don't quite control it. But in our plan, we are recommending that long-term to consider installing a median on Route 30. I'm trying to find that page. I'm sorry. Sorry, bear with me. Calumet Route 30 district. So here, as you can see, for Route 30, we are looking at not only all the curb cuts, how we can consolidate that, keep going, but really looking at on Route 30, how we can long-term work with the state in introducing some landscape medians. As Perry walked you through, we are looking at trails. So there's a whole lot of streetscaping improvements, landscaping improvements that can be done to slow down traffic and really give it a more pedestrian feel. Mr. Nathan Keene had a question. I agree with Jason. I feel if any of these large projects do move forward, Dyer should have some kind of town owner's rep charged back to the developer who oversees developers' plans and being a neutral third-party referee. So traffic patterns, parking, pedestrian paths, etc., are planned appropriately. And good to note, I'm not going to respond to that. That's more of an administrative question, and we hope you will continue to. That's a bit unusual for a town of your size. Normally, owners' reps are things that are typically more required for very large, complicated projects. But in this case, that's definitely something that the town can ask for. Before we start wrapping up, I don't know if anyone else had any other questions. Otherwise, we'll start wrapping up a bit. Again, this has been a wonderful, wonderful session. Just a reminder, please keep those questions and feedback coming till end of this month. And then we hope you, end of October. We hope you will continue to reach out to your town council members or us with your comments, and then continue to participate as it goes through the full approval in November and December. And again, thank you again for all your participation, and we look forward to your feedback. I'll ask Mary or someone from the town to kind of close it off tonight. Mary or Tom?
Just want to thank you so much for all the hard work that you've done, and I love the way that it looks. I think our town council is working feverishly to get this through over the next couple of months, and we look forward to more participation by all of our residents and our business people too. So thank you so much. Thank you to the people who attended this meeting this evening.
All right. Thank you again, everyone. Stay safe, stay healthy. And this is your plan, and we are so excited. People are asking, when will this be done? That is the best reaction we could have received on this plan. Thank you again, and we look forward to all your comments. Good night, everyone. Good night. Bye, Mary. Bye, Tom.